Welcome to the Private Practice Journeys podcast, where mental health professionals learn about the nuts and bolts of private practice by listening to the journeys of 4 therapists that have taken the plunge into private practice. And here's your host, Chris Quarto.
Hey everyone, this is Chris Quarto, and welcome back to Private Practice Journeys. Hey, I have a question for you. How's your own private practice coming along? Is it growing? Is it developing the way that you want it to? And maybe you haven't even started it yet. You've been thinking about it for a long time, but you just haven't taken that plunge. Well, one of the neat things about this Private Practice Journeys podcast series is you can learn by listening to the experiences of others. And in fact, 4 therapists who have taken that plunge starting back in January talk about what it's really like to do this. And Amanda Petrik's going to talk about her recent experiences today on this podcast episode. But what I'm going to challenge you to do is to try to listen for one thing that Amanda talks about that you might be able to try in your own practice or apply in your own practice. Or if you haven't started your practice yet, to think about, hey, this would be a great thing to do. If and when I do start my practice, this is definitely something that I want to do. So that's my challenge for you today when you listen to this podcast episode. So without further ado, here is Amanda. Hey everyone, welcome again to Private Practice Journeys, and I'm so glad that you've joined us. And this week I've got Amanda Petrik on the podcast episode. And Amanda, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. I'm glad to be doing this again.
Oh, that's wonderful. And let me just update the Journey followers just a little bit about what we're doing with this podcast series. Amanda is one of 4 therapists who graciously agreed to participate for a year on this podcast series. And they're all starting their private practices. They all started them back in January. And I think, and Amanda, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Amanda had worked in community mental health, and she also had worked at a hospital providing services, I think to kids. Is that right? Primarily?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was primarily little ones.
And you were doing some work there, and then you decided, you know what, I want to do this private practice thing. And I think you were planning on starting off part-time, but it just took off. And so you said, why not do this full-time? And so here you are doing the full-time gig. So it's just a great thing that you've done. So, well, why don't we start off this episode? I'm doing this with all the therapists just so we can kind of look at what you've done over the summer months, because the last time you were on here, Amanda, was we were doing the I was pairing you guys up with the experts in private practice development, and I think that you were paired up with Joe Sanok. And boy, it was nice having him on this episode.
Yeah.
It was just great, wonderful advice. And I just want to encourage the Journey followers, if you haven't listened to that interview with Amanda and Joe, go back and listen to it. You can go to chrisquarto.com. Click on podcast, and you'll be able to hear that, because boy, Joe really provided you with some great advice. So, and anybody can use that advice. But anyway, that was the last time that you were on here, Amanda. I think that was in late May or early June. And so if you wouldn't mind, why don't you just kind of bring us and the Journey followers up to speed? Just what have you been doing since that time?
As far as just for fun over this summer, it was kind of a boring summer because, like, literally right before it started, I had my honeymoon, and so
that's right.
Sorry, vacation. We just went camping for a week, so the summer has just been working and trying to get the business going.
Yeah.
The fun's there.
That's right. I had forgotten that you just had your honeymoon. Was that in Jamaica? I don't remember.
It was.
Yeah,
Good
that's
memory.
right. Yep, that's right. So that's right. So you had done that, and then it was just kind of, okay, now it's back to private practice, and here we go.
It was, and luckily I had just had that consultation with Joe Sanok, and that was so helpful. The information he gave that, over the summer, I took that and ran with it, so made a ton of changes. So
tell us a little bit about what kind of changes that you've made since that time. It'd be really interesting to hear this.
So if over the summer, if things had slowed down, what my summer months were kind of like. And what's interesting is it slowed down a little bit, but I'm actually questioning if it was because I had made some changes, but they were good changes. He had recommended that I really clarify what my niche was.
All right.
Because even though I knew what it was, I'm like, well, I do anxiety disorders. I'm very structured CBT. I love OCD, exposure and response prevention.
Sure.
If you went to look at my website, it didn't look like that.
All right.
Because my very front page said anxiety disorders, mood disorders. I'm a registered play therapist. I do couples therapy. And he said, you need to take all that off. And that was really scary.
Wow.
Because even though I know that the more you clarify it, that's the population you're going to reach. You might get more people based on that. You still have that little bit of fear. What if I'm going to miss out?
Yeah.
And what has been great is that I'm getting more of the people that I love.
Is that right?
It's so much easier. Yes, I'm getting, what's even better is I'm getting people from out of the city driving in over an hour to come see me because they know that I'm surprised. And people that are doing self-pay because I don't take their insurance, but they want to see me for OCD work. Or I've started doing online counseling, so people coming and seeing me across the state that want to do OCD with me. So that was a really scary leap there to take a lot of those things off the website.
So you took them off, but what did you replace it with?
So now it says just anxiety disorders. I specialize in anxiety disorders and maybe the feelings and symptoms that surround it.
All right.
Because a lot of times, anxiety does lead to depressive feelings. So I don't want to discount, I won't see you if you feel down because of it.
Yep.
I will say I haven't unchecked all the buttons like on my Psychology Today profile. A little weary of some of those.
Yeah.
But I really went through social media and all my profiles and took off a lot of those extra things that I didn't need.
Yeah, but that was kind of hard at first, wasn't it?
Oh, it was so difficult because I felt like every time I deleted something, what if I lost a client?
Yeah.
But then I gained a lot more in return, which I feel like has benefited from that. And also, I terminated from several insurance contracts that I felt like didn't reimburse what I was worth.
All right.
And so while there might have been a dip at the beginning of the summer, I am seeing far fewer clients, but making more.
Wow. Isn't that interesting? I think that if I were a Journey follower listening to this and I was just thinking about going into private practice or maybe just starting one, I would be thinking, boy, what Amanda did sounds like such a big risk to me. How did she know that things were going to work out so well and that that she wasn't. It's that scarcity mindset I think that a lot of us have when we do things like that. But didn't you go through any of that? I mean, how did you deal with all that?
I think I have just fully believed. I mean, having to see people write it, talk about it, that abundance versus scarcity mindset, and just fully believe they must know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And now I find myself having to convince my colleagues of that there are enough people to go around.
Oh, sure.
And they will find you. And if you're good at what you do, they will come to you.
Yeah.
I had to take that risk that I wasn't just going to lose my entire caseload by narrowing it down to just one insurance is what I'm on.
Right. Yeah. How wonderful is that? And I've heard people, I've heard Joe and I've heard other experts say the same thing about getting off insurance panels, if you choose to, charging a higher fee and seeing fewer clients. And it's a much more positive experience. It's a risk in doing that, but it works out. And it sounds like it's working out really well for you.
Yeah, and I don't think I'll probably ever leave this one insurance panel, but I knew they're the ones that value my time, reimburse my rates. I'm going to stick with them, and there are enough clients on it. It's the number one insurance agency in our community.
Yes.
And I was like, I can do without the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to preach that to all my colleagues, but they're still kind of in that scarcity mindset that I need to offer my service to everybody, and we'll let those clients go to them.
Yes, I know, and I'm the same way. I don't think I'll ever be full cash practice pay practice, but there are certain insurance companies who are fine to work with, and but you're right. I mean, you learn pretty quickly which ones are the best and which ones feel like they're just kind of taking advantage of you, and who wants that?
Yes, I thought it was an interesting question. You had wondered, has my practice, or did it slow down over the summer? And I was like, yeah, I'm probably down maybe 6 or 7 a week from where I was. But I'm like, but my income is more.
Wow.
So
that's just amazing. Yeah. And I guess, when you think about that, it probably it takes the stress off from you. It probably makes what you're doing much more enjoyable, doesn't it?
Yes. It's nice to have that little bit of free time.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Amanda. What other things have you learned about just being a business owner, just, operating your practice? Anything else that you've learned about being a private practitioner, or any adjustments that you've had to make?
I mean, I think the big thing was that mindset, whether it was, the abundance versus scarcity. But other than that, like logistically, just making a lot of changes as far as marketing, just doing more networking versus actual what people consider marketing.
Yes.
That was a huge one. I really see value now of, I need to know people and connect with them.
Right.
And how
do you do that? I didn't mean to interrupt, but how do you go about doing that, Amanda?
Great question. I'll just give you some little examples of what I've done now.
Okay.
And I feel like this goes way further than putting out a flyer. I noticed, several of my clients kept having the same PCP, this physician.
Right.
Prescribing their medication. I was like, I don't know her. So I just sent her a note, a little handwritten note saying, hey, nice to meet you. This is who I am. I didn't even mention who the clients were.
Okay.
I just said, hey, we have some mutual clients. All of a sudden now this physician refers to me. Here's what's great is her practice is cash pay only. She doesn't take insurance.
Okay.
So that would be even better.
Yeah.
But just something like that, reaching out and letting people know who I am.
Something that small, and it's just sending a note, and it's not that difficult to do, and it pays dividends.
Completely. I mean, her practice is new to the town, and she doesn't know who I am. So I'm trying to wrap my head around how a step like that that often intimidates new clinicians.
Yeah.
To have to reach out or to make that connection. To me, that's easy. I can write a note in 5 minutes and get it in the mail.
Yeah, it's not that hard to do. So are there any other ways that you've networked?
Yeah, and we can talk about social media. I love, but I don't use it completely in the way of just like marketing myself, but in the way of networking. I had started, there's a ton of Facebook groups, for therapists, as we both know. Yep. But I started one just for the Kansas therapists because I noticed we don't have one. And now there's about 800 members or so.
Holy cow.
But we have about 10,000 therapists in Kansas, so we're not quite where I wanted to be.
Oh, man.
800 therapists, and I'm the one, the admin. I'm the one posting it, and people are posting questions all day, every day. I hate to sound vain, but people now know my name, and when they refer, they think of me in Topeka.
Right.
It has just been a great way, not just to market my name, but we have started meet and greets in all these different towns just to meet each other. And
what a nice way of bringing therapists together,
It has. And I get messages every day from these therapists like, this was such a great idea, whether it's to answer questions or to make referrals to and from each other or just to meet one another.
Oh, what a wonderful idea. And, if you think about that, because we've got that in the Nashville area too. And just think if more therapists would take the initiative and start groups like you did and just to bring us together. I mean, I know that some therapists in areas, they do meet in person already. They have previously established groups, but sometimes it's not convenient to meet that way, but you still want to be able to connect with your fellow therapists. And so this is such a nice alternative in getting to know other people and having those types of connections.
Oh, completely. I was weary of starting something like it, like, is it just going to be me and my 10 friends in this group? And it has just grown. And like I said, everybody's constantly thanking for a resource like this
Yes.
to meet others. So,
And the reason that it's grown, Amanda, is because they see value in what you've done
Mhm.
and in this kind of
Thank
a
you.
resource. Yeah. And I think that there's a lot to be said about that. And, you know, talking about social media, I want to talk a little bit more about that. And if, I know in the beginning you had some things that you were doing. You had your website. We've talked a little bit about what you've done to make changes in that way. And you've got this new therapist group started. Have you done anything else along the lines of social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest, one of these other social media outlets to kind of enhance your practice?
I would say other than kind of the Facebook group, obviously most of us have an active Facebook
Yeah.
business page.
Mm-hmm.
The one social media tool I feel like has helped my business, I believe in Facebook ads.
Okay.
Because I notice when I mean, it's the cost of a copay. I pay maybe $25 or $30 here and there to do one.
Okay.
And as soon as I do, I get that rush of phone calls in.
Can you say
And
a
I
little
don't
bit,
just do-
bit about that? Because you know, some of the Journey followers might be listening to this and thinking, Facebook ads.
What's a
I've never
Facebook
heard.
ad?
Yeah, I've never heard of that. What is that anyway?
Right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, you can do just a general Facebook ad like that says, oh, here's my website or here's my business, click here. Or you can do a real specific one, whether you wrote an article or tried to talk about symptoms of anxiety. But the great thing about a Facebook ad is you can really target. So I specify I want it to go out to 18 to 40-year-olds, women, or whatever your kind of niche is. People that have searched, you can target what they have searched for. So I usually put in, they search for anxiety or self-esteem or panic. And it goes out or in your location. So I do Topeka, Kansas, and 30 miles around it.
Okay.
And how much you want to pay a day. So, and I usually put total of $30 for the week.
All right.
And all of a sudden, it has reached a couple thousand people. And it shows you how many people clicked on it. And I will get this influx of calls all of a sudden that week. And I always ask where people found me and how many people all of a sudden in that week said they saw me on Facebook.
Wow.
Every time. And I'm like, the payoff is pretty huge. And I think of how many times I've ordered a product because I saw it on Facebook.
Right.
Or I looked up a company because I saw it on Facebook. It's kind of the new marketing strategy.
So as part of this, I guess what, as a business owner, one of the things that you would do is not only use that and look at the data in terms of how many people are clicking on it, but then how many of those are you actually converting into actual clients? And so are you finding that people are actually scheduling? I mean, some of these clients or people who have looked at the ads are actually scheduling appointments with you?
Yes, I would say each time I have done one, I've at least gotten one client from it.
Wow.
Because somebody will usually message me from there. Sometimes they don't have the correct insurance, so I'm not always been the correct person for them.
Right.
But people are seeing it, they're clicking, they're calling, they're messaging. But it has been a valuable tool to get my name out there. People see it. I mean, I hate to say it, but they're those annoying sponsored ads that pop up on our feed.
Yeah.
That people see.
But when you think about
and if it clicks with the right person.
For the cost, for the cost of a copay to it first, $30 a week, you get a client out of that. I mean, that pays well and above what you invested into the ad.
More than in their first session, it has paid off.
Yeah. Man, what a great marketing strategy to use that. And I've heard of Facebook ads. I haven't tried it myself, but I've heard a lot of people talk about that and how powerful it is. And obviously, it's working out pretty well for you.
And I usually just do that when I'm kind of in a slow week.
Yeah.
I'm like, it looks like I need to do that right now.
Okay.
Because I know I'll get those calls.
Well, listen, if anybody wants to get a hold of you to schedule an appointment, a prospective client, how might they go about doing that, Amanda?
I would say the best way is to go to my website because it'll have my phone number and email.
All right.
The website is amandalcpc.com.
Okay. And obviously your phone number is on there and all that kind of stuff too. And one of the things that I'm going to want to do with you the next time that we talked, and I've talked to Lisa about this too, is to talk a little bit about the systems that you guys have in place for your practices and how you go about actually, the whole scheduling and billing, all the different systems that you guys have in place, and perhaps how you've changed those since you've started your practice, or how you've used them more efficiently. Those are some of the things I think it would be really nice for the Journey followers to hear as well, because there's a lot to be said in getting your system set up to run an efficient private practice. So that's what I'm kind of looking forward to talking to you guys about next month.
That would be great and very helpful.
Yes, it would be. Well, listen, thanks so much again for joining us on the Private Practice Journeys podcast episode, Amanda.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so my challenge for you was to identify at least one thing that you could take from this podcast episode and apply it to your own practice or your future practice. So what was that? Was it what Amanda was talking about in terms of clarifying her niche, really zeroing in on her ideal client? Did it have to do with networking and connecting with people? Maybe you really, her use of Facebook ads, maybe that really spoke to you. So whatever it was, I want to challenge you to think about how you could apply these to your own practices or future practices sometime this week. And if it makes sense, try it, implement it, see how it works. Okay, if you'd like to get the show notes for today's episode, please visit my website, chrisquarto.com, CHRISQUARTO.com. And also, if you want to listen to any of the past episodes, you can find them there too. And I would highly recommend listening to the episodes where the four therapists were paired with expert therapists. And recommendations that they gave, and actually Amanda spoke about today about how she's actually implemented some of those recommendations from Joe Sanok. So I'd recommend that you go back and listen to those if you get a chance to. So I hope you have a great rest of the week. Thanks for listening.